Welcome to 28 Days and Beyond, where we're celebrating our history, our heritage, our culture, and our own authentic voice. And we have a great guest with us on the set. Welcome to the set, Michael Dennis.
Hey, Alex.
Michael, give people a snapshot of who you are and where you're from and all that good stuff.
Well, I was born in Philly.
Okay.
Went to Central High School.
Yeah.
And then went to NYU for undergrad and AFI. And just from an early age, I knew I wanted to make films.
Okay.
At a certain point, I realized I had a certain social responsibility that I might have that other filmmakers might not feel a burden. So, for the last 13 years, I've curated and hosted a movie screening series called Real Black Presents, and we do monthly screenings here in Philadelphia. And we also have a TV show, which you can discover on YouTube, as well as I host a radio show every Friday with Stephanie Renee for WURD AM.
Okay. Well, I'm not. You mentioned a magnet school, Central. I don't know if everybody know who Central is. I know who Central is.
No, wait. Now, where'd you go?
What did GW? It's not about me.
Okay, a little bit of prejudice. Sorry. Central was it. But anyway.
So what's the cultural context you grew up in? Like, what part of the city of Philadelphia?
Straight up nerd. Mount Airy.
Mount Airy, okay.
For those who don't know, Mount Airy is the middle class, very racially diverse section of Northwest Philadelphia. So, I was listening to the stuff in the '80s. I was listening to The Fix and The Doors and OMD. All the, when I went to NYU, I thought I was going to be like the black version of John Hughes.
Okay.
And then Public Enemy came out.
Okay.
And KRS One came out. And I said, okay, let me. And then people start looking at you when you're in kind of rarefied air like that. Everybody, it doesn't matter what you identify with culturally, people will look at your skin and perceive you a certain way. So at the same time, I was getting folks like just assuming that I was a representative of all black people because I had never met very many. I was also discovering a cultural identity through the music and through the culture, and that carries me on to this day. Everything I do is about ensuring the legacy of black film.
Okay. Well, so what was your family dynamics, man? You got an unraveling good
history. I was raised
right?
by my grandparents.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. My mom loves me. She just said today that she felt like she was the Virgin Mary. She's so proud of me. So.
Okay.
So yeah, it was good growing up. Middle class. I won't front, but.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So you said you identified early that you knew you wanted to do film, and you
from
had
a
a social.
very early age, yeah.
What was your role model, if you had one, or anything like that? Like, what made you pick film? Because that's like kind of like not typical, if I can use that.
You think so? I think everybody wants to make film. Everybody I come across harbors a secret need. I think for me, I just love, as a sort of an only child, in a way, I found escape in film.
Okay.
And then also I saw a way to orient myself to the world.
Okay.
With film. So, a lot of stuff that I grew up with, coming of age movies and gangster films,
Okay.
Earliest memories seeing like White Heat with James Cagney on TV and just falling in love with it. But, it just became an obsession. When I was 15 years old, I got my working papers. The first job I had was working at a video store, and I devoured that. And when I went to film school, I was devouring film, like incessantly. It's just, I've been lucky that I've been able, like every waking day of my life since I made that decision, I've spent at least an hour on committing myself to film and helping to tell stories.
Yeah, and I would say, in and of itself, you're kind of unique because you don't see a lot of people representative who looks like you in front of the camera and directing. To a large degree within the Central Mount Airy section. Right?
You're going to have Rel Dowdell on, so he went to Central, so that's two of us, so, and I don't know. I think in the last 10 years, there's been an explosion of black filmmakers. The fact that you can make films for way less cost has enabled a lot more people to be able to tell their own stories. So. Maybe in the grand scheme of things, in terms of the industry, you might not necessarily see a lot of representation, but in terms of people wanting to do this, wanting to express themselves, wanting to be artists and use the medium of film. I think there's more now than ever, and that's a great thing.
So as a creator, which you are, producing your own films and things of that nature, and creating your own content, right? And you're pretty much running your own show with your team. What's your perspective of the Oscars when it came to certain, people not being nominated? I like to hear it from you, being a
In terms of the
Not getting-
lack of nominations.
lack of nominations, or the overall how it's set up.
Well, it wasn't really news. It was like it was sort of like saying, "Hey, did you notice that the sky's blue?"
Okay.
It's like it is. It just is, and it's something that's systemic. And I think that people are starting to wake up to the fact that there's a lot of things that exist in our culture that point to systemic racism. The Oscars is just another example of that. And I think that there are people that are working every day to try and change that. But in terms of if we want to see more Oscar nominees, we need to see more. We need to have more opportunities to tell our own stories on a high level. If you rely on Hollywood, a lot of the movies that were nominated, and we have seen quite a few in the last 10, 15 years, from Halle Berry and Denzel winning in 2004 to Jamie Foxx. It's very commonplace now, once that wall was knocked down, to see black talent represented at the Oscars. Why it's dried up in the last couple of years, I think it just goes in waves. But, ultimately, the films that we do see blacks winning, Precious, they were made outside of the Hollywood system, 12 Years a Slave. They were done, financed independent of the Hollywood system. And then when the distributors saw how good they were, they put their muscle behind it, and that's what led to the Oscar nominations and the wins. So, waiting for Hollywood to, create the next Oscar-winning black film, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
It has to happen independent of that system. And like I said, I work with Ava DuVernay, with the Array Collective. We're a distribution partnership. We've released 13 films to theaters in the last 5 years. And, I think it's just growing, and it's a great time to be a filmmaker. It's a great time to be a filmmaker of color.
Well, look, you're not going to give yourself credit, but I'm going to say unique. So we're going to get past that.
Okay.
So I'll give you the credit, So let me ask you this. You used the word earlier, or a phrase, you said socially conscious. You want to produce films that's representative of things that are positive, or it could be controversial, but through your lens. Can you expound on that? What made you drive at that, or come to that conclusion?
Well, I had a chance very early in my college career to travel overseas.
Okay.
And there were a lot of, that was like sort of the beginning of the wave. So in 1989, I was in Senegal.
Okay.
And the story I always tell is Coming to America had come out with Eddie Murphy. And I was in Senegal, as a French-speaking country. And I always whenever I traveled someplace, I would go to the movie theater. Now, that particular day, the movie theater was closed, but they were showing Coming to America. And there was a big poster on the wall that said, Prince d'Amérique, and it was a big picture of Eddie Murphy dressed as an African king, if you can remember the poster.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, these images travel. Wow, what it must be like to be a young kid, and I get to see Eddie Murphy dressed in royal garb in Africa saying Prince of America, Prince of New York. And then within a half hour of that, I walked down the street, and there was these African kids playing soccer in a field. And I was with my friend, and they invited us in, hey, come in and watch us play. And this is like their playground or whatever. And they walked us around, and it turned out it was like the backyard of a church, or a field next to a church. And we walked into the church and looked up on the ceiling, and there was a big painting of Jesus Christ. But he wasn't painted as an African person. It was a white Jesus Christ, big as anything on the sign. So I said, well, this image is counteracting what I'm seeing with Eddie Murphy and his success. And I think that was the moment where I decided that I need to take a certain level of responsibility in terms of the stories I want to tell, the stories I want to promote. They have to have some level of consciousness, some relevance. It's not just enough to allow things to be the same. And then, similarly, when I was in Brazil, I had a chance to see The Cosby Show.
Wow.
And it was in Portuguese. I said, wow, these images travel. So I think that's a window that I got a chance to look through at a young formative time that not every filmmaker of color has had a chance to see, that these images, once you let them go, they have an impact and they can influence the way people think about us and think about their place in the world.
I'm shopping at the bit, and we wrapping up and everything. But two things I want to do. One, I want to know what that hat represents, and two, how can people get in contact with your content? So if you can do that just quickly for
Well,
me.
for those who don't know, this is the Real Black logo.
Okay.
You know, and we've been in business for 13 years.
Okay.
And you can go to realblack.com, REELBLACK.com, or just Google Real Black and you'll find me.
Okay. Spell that out, because
Real Black, REEL,
Yeah.
like the movie Real,
yeah.
and Black like who I am.
.com, right?
.com. Yeah.
.com. Hey, we thank you once again for tuning in with 28 Days of Beyond, where we celebrate our history, our heritage, and our culture in our own authentic voice. And we would like, once again, thanking for coming to the set, Michael Dennis. Thank you for being a great guest. And we ask you to tune in again tomorrow, and have a great day. Thank you.